Yeah, and so today's webinar is on MunEEBucks. John von Harz, who is our technology partner and our implementer and our contractor for this program, is also on the webinar today to talk to everyone. I'm assuming that everyone on this call has sort of a baseline understanding of MunEEBucks, but we're going to go through it again real quick, what MunEEBucks is, what it looks like, some of the features, and then we're going to talk about some of the other things that were around with MunEEBucks. So the big question is, what is MunEEBucks? Well, MunEEBucks is a rebate program in a box. It is a managed energy efficiency program available to IAMU members. This program is paid for by member dues, so it is free to all members. It's a good fit for a lot of different members. You know, if you don't have a rebate program now and you're looking to add one in a simple and stress-free way, MunEEBucks is really good for that. We've done that, and it's been implemented very well. People who have an existing program that needs annual refreshing, given the different improvements and efficiency technology, and people who have an existing program and are looking for a low-touch outsource administration. So MunEEBucks is all about making your life easier if you run a rebate program or if you collect rebate applications and process them. So that's kind of what it's all about. Yeah, and people who also want to instantly introduce a new up-to-date efficiency program. So some elements of MunEEBucks, there's the portfolio design. All rebate programs are configured based on the Iowa State Technical Resource Manual, or the TRM as you'll hear it called. And that includes the energy savings, kW, power demand savings, and expected useful life or measure life. When we're designing this portfolio, we take a look at it every year and we do a redesign. We look at what the other rebates are for the investor-owned utilities in Iowa, and also a little bit of what other states are offering in terms of rebates. So the kind of the standard or default rebates that we present to new MunEEBucks prospective participants is pretty well thought out, and it's well researched, and we've put a lot of time into thinking about what the rebate would be and what is an effective incentive to encourage folks to do efficiency projects. So that's kind of the design aspect of everything. Another part of MunEEBucks is that we provide you with an online intake portal for your customers to submit rebates to us. So your customers can go online and submit it that way. They can also, call you up and have you submit it online. I think some folks were having paper forms. John, do you know about that? Were some folks filling it out on paper and just having it, having the admin or us fill it out?
Yeah, so it's really we are indifferent on that. We provide a singular intake portal and I guess I can actually show you some stuff. I'll fire some stuff up on my computer, but you can use basically a single doorway for both supporting traditional mail-in programs and then also online entry.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's very easy to use. The online portal is designed to be so that anybody can use it, even folks who aren't the best with computers. So very easy to use. Yeah, and then basically what we take the load off of you, the municipal employee, for maintaining the system, processing rebates, administration tasks on the rebate program, and reporting. And so every month we also give you a monthly fulfillment report. So take these rebates, we process them, we make sure that the equipment is efficient and is in line with the recommendations and the TRMs and the terms and conditions that you've set out. And then every month we give to you a fulfillment report, which details what rebates we received, the rebates that were approved, and kind of gives you an opportunity to do a final approval and payment to your customer. Yeah, so the shared environment is cost effective. Basically, the IOUs put a lot of money and resources to having the TRM having it created initially and then revised annually. And so that saves a lot of costs so that we don't have to, hire an engineering firm to develop a set of standards that we all agree on and that is all, legal and viewed as a reliable resource from different reporting agencies like EIA. When it comes time to do EIA 861, if they ask you, well, how did you come up with these numbers? We can say, oh, we have the state TRM, the Iowa TRM that backs up everything that we calculate. So it's really good as that technical backstop. And it's a shared form and infrastructure, dramatically lowers the cost of entry and the cost to participate, which for our members is zero. A centralized system for program administration and a singular process flow for review and validation. So it's pretty efficient, it's pretty slick, and it's very secure as well. So we can tailor your portal to each member. Each member has their own intake portal with their own presentation and web address. We can do MunEEBucks for utilities that are electric only utilities, utilities that are gas only, and utilities that have gas and electric. So we can offer rebates for either of those three. And you can offer as few or as many rebates or programs as you wish. Right after this, I'll show you guys a few examples of rebate portals, how they appear online, and you'll see some folks have a bunch of rebates and some folks only have a few, but it's really meant to be configurable to what your needs are as a utility. And you can also change the values of rebates. You can change the dollar amount and say, we recommend a $200 rebate for this project, but for whatever reason, you guys would like to recommend 300 or maybe 50. You have the ability to do that. Not just energy efficiency, we can include other incentive programs such as EV chargers, PV solar, heat pumps, that sort of thing. I don't think there's anything here that I want to go into anymore. Here's some different line items of rebates that we offer. That's just kind of an Excel spreadsheet. Let's see here. So some of the review and approval process. We review each application to make sure they're within your city limits. Each application that's reviewed, we ensure that it is energy efficient and it does fall within the requirements that you have. So for example, like an air conditioner, the QPL or the qualified products there is the AHRI QPL. And so we make sure that the unit that the customer is installing is on that AHRI QPL. They are within your city limits. It is efficient enough, and that is a legit install. And then we give that information to you. You get a last look to confirm, do an approval, and then you can process payment to your customer. Every month, we'll also send you a report that includes what rebates we approved to give you some information, to give you basically the last look, again, before you pay the customer. So you've got a Matt Campbell and a Kirk Ferentz. That's awesome. And then another real huge benefit of MunEEBucks is that when it comes to do that compliance reporting and, ask your city clerks how they about compliance reporting, being a participant in MunEEBucks makes the EIA 861 and the WAPA MIR, if you do that one, much easier. Much easier, because all of the savings information is right here. We've been tracking it and recording it all year long, and it's extremely accurate because it's backed up by the TRM. So we have some different alternative models too. We have some folks who have a custom implementation of MunEEBucks where their offerings are just so different than the core MunEEBucks product that they've broken off and kind of done their own thing. So, if you don't fit exactly into MunEEBucks, that's always an option. I believe that is a paid option, but that is there. You can do your own portfolio design, your rebate processing. There's also, John is going to talk about, contractor submission, some other really different cool things that are parts of MunEEBucks. Yeah, and there's an availability for you, the municipality, to offer a rebate, and also your joint action agency to offer a rebate, and for it to be a multi-level sort of program in that way. Yeah, so at this point, real quick, I'm going to show you guys some MunEEBucks portals. So here's one we're working on right now for State Center. And of course, my computer is going to be slow. Bear with me for one moment. So one of the new things we've implemented is this landing page where you can see all the rebates right next to each other. This was important to me. You know, a few jobs ago, I was actually in the lighting industry, speccing in lighting projects and calculating savings and, you know, lumens per square foot and all that, and doing photometrics. And on the front end of a project, it was really important for me to see all of the rebates so I could properly give the customer a quote so that there were no surprises on the back end of a project, you know, and also to keep the customer happy. So this is a really good thing. You know, the first thing your customer sees when they go here is, oh, here's what all the rebates are, and they can start thinking about projects. And then the next button over is apply online. This is how you would apply for a rebate. You would select, you know, which category you're here. Let's say it's lighting. Select this. And then it's a really simple application process. You know, John has also implemented this. I really like this right here. This sort of timeline, or the, you know, gives customers an expectation of how long it's going to take them, and also how many steps there are. Yeah, and it's, you know, you simply fill out a form here. It's really easy and very straightforward. You know, and there's also some terms and conditions. So, example, you know, State Center, one of the custom terms and conditions that they had was that no residential customer should receive over $1,800 a year. You know, so if you guys have some certain concerns or some T's and C's that you need to see implemented, we can do that easily. Yeah. So like I said, you know, these portals, we can make them, sort of customize them to your utility. Here's Estherville. You know, basically they kind of look similar, but we've got your logo up here. We can do different things with the coloring and the branding to make it copacetic with your existing, you know, website. So yeah, that's it on that. Let's see what else I've got here. Yeah, so that's kind of the explainer of what MunEEBucks is and kind of what it's there for. I'm going to turn it over to John here in a second, but you know, just initially, does anyone have any questions? Okay, great. We'll also take questions, you know, at the end of the presentation, and if you come up with a question, you can throw it in chat, and we'll get some answers for you. But yeah, at this point, I'll turn it over to John, and he's going to talk some more about the interesting features and updates that we have coming for Buck. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much. I just will lead in with a couple things here, Jeff. When we conceived of this whole thing early on, you know, it was like the association said, you know, our members have their own things and want the autonomy to do their own things. But, you know, can we somehow build a core so they don't have to build their own core, you know, all these members? So can we give them some premise, you know, can we get this thing to, say, the 25-yard line, and then grant them latitude to do whatever they want to do for the last 25 yards to get in the end zone? So like metaphorically, how I sort of look at this thing is, it's like a one big warehouse, and there's, you know, over 100 doorways, and each of the MunEEBucks participants has their own doorway with their own brand and their own list of stuff on the front, and the, you know, the they just their own values. They make, they make all your own decisions, but the stuff that you don't want to do, we do for you. Okay, that's one, and that's said that basically that's the big economic proposition too. And then number two, on these different incentive styles and the trends in the market and the TRM and Energy Star and the federal minimum standards and all these kinds of things, you folks all have regular jobs. I mean, how do you keep up with this stuff, right? For example, on less than a year from now, the air conditioner and heat pump federal minimum standards are going up, and the methodology for those ratings is also changing. So an Energy Star routinely changes their criteria, and fairly soon they're no longer going to support fossil fueled appliances. So all these kinds of things, it's not only your own branded portal, and also the processing and administration of that, but there's everything that we do throughout the course of the year to stay in tune with the market, so you don't have to. Again, whether that's the annual updates to the TRM, whether that has to do with electrification issues, which are non-efficiency, whether that has to do with Energy Star, federal minimum standards, what's happening with Mid-American and Alliant, which is also timely right now, which we'll talk about. So I wanted to mention that, it's your deal, but you're able to repurpose a lot of stuff that the association has invested in. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is, just generally, I'm personally seeing some changes in the whole utility rebate world. I mean, traditionally it was about efficiency, shaving peak, annualized energy savings. Maybe you have some policies around conservation improvements and sustainability. Maybe it's simply a matter of maybe it's a low income thing where you're trying to help out, those that are, lower on the income scale. Sometimes it's just about making sure you have something to offer when the investor owns too as well. All those things we're going to talk about, and we do, but we're also seeing a lot, we're seeing more and more beneficial electrification things. For example, propane conversions. That's, a real trend that I see. I do, of course, I see a lot of stuff with EVs, everything from EV chargers, fleet EV chargers, rewiring to make EV chargers in existing homes where the panels in the basement, which is a big deal. I'm even seeing incentives now for electric vehicles themselves. So that's one. And then we are seeing solar stuff. Now that may not be something you have an appetite for, but it could be real simple, something like a solar water heater, which is simply an appliance rebate, or it could be PV, and it could be an incentive on PV or or it could be just contract administration of solar D, and that's something that we're just now beginning to work with our Missouri network that we're involved. So we're seeing a lot of different things, and so don't just think of MunEEBucks as energy efficiency. It incorporates that, but there's just so much more now: home audit, weatherization, so on and so forth. So. Okay, Jeff, you can press forward. These are the things I'm going to talk about, so you can press forward on this. All right, so I wanted to talk about, so we go through an annual review of the portfolio, okay? And we don't have one MunEEBucks member that uses every program, by the way. So if most of them, well, all of them, it's a fraction, and some of them are just a few. But I did want to talk about some things that we did throughout 2021 that came as a request of certain members, okay? And if you participated in this last year, remember we did some things with windows and doors that were at the request of Lawrence, I think. And so we get these requests, and so we build these new programs. One that we did this year was the whole ductless, most of the whole heat pump business, or at least the awareness and attraction to heat pumps, is really on the rise. And so one of the things that we did this year with the ductless is we created both supplemental and whole house options. Okay, so there's incentive values, different selections for supplemental, where I just added a room, a bonus room, or I need to put a mini split up because I've got electric resistance heat or an electric furnace and it's too expensive, and that would be your supplemental. And now we have a whole home option, which would from your perspective, be very similar to a central air source heat pump, but it's just a series of heads for ductless. So that's one. Two is, we really didn't do a whole lot with appliances, the first couple of years. There's two appliances in here that are efficiency rebates, dishwasher and dehumidifier. They're not supported by the Iowa TRM, which is why we didn't do anything with those, but we just had a number of requests and said, well, we still want to offer them. So we did add some programs around that. We don't capture any KWH or KW on those because the state doesn't, it's not a matter of permitting, but they don't encourage it, but we do enable it for you to offer. Shade trees was also that came in this year. And then we did some things with non-residential smart thermostats. So the Iowa TRM, again, the thermostats and efficiency rebate, the Iowa TRM, for non-residential just really identifies a small commercial thermostat because most of the big buildings are on control systems, right? But we did have a request to say, look, we're starting to see some of this Nest and Ecobee go into, dentist offices and things like that. So we added that as well. So those things are new. And if you have some that are not currently on the list or not in this bullet point, please let us know. Here's some things that came up this year that were non-traditional. I've already mentioned some of them. So solar water heater is one. Electric vehicles. Now I'm not talking about chargers. I'm talking about electric vehicles. So an incentive for a vehicle itself. And then we on the EV programs, we have additional sections in there where, we ask the requester, the applicant, if you will, what kind of vehicles? When are you going to charge them? Is it a fleet? Are you going to do this at home? Is it, those kinds of things. Analytics that will help you. Propane conversion bonuses has become big. I would say big-ish. The investor owns are not allowed to promote fuel conversion, so it's not a huge thing in the market. But with rural electric cooperatives in public utilities like yourselves, it has growing concern. And then solar PV, both in just as an incentive. And it was Ames. Ames uses MunEEBucks now. They're the biggest public utility in the state. They really drove some of the solar PV stuff, all of which we can ride herd on. Okay. So one thing that we want to talk about here is Jeff and I chose not to make meaningful change to 2022, either in the programs that are available to be posted or in terms of the recommended MunEEBucks values for those, okay? Now, the big reasons why is there were no material changes to the current Iowa TRM, which is version 6.0, and and Mid-American Alliant really did nothing, okay? I think Alliant added a geo maintenance program, and that was it, okay? Additionally, it's really kind of taken over. So we have these MunEEBucks rebate values, which we'll talk about in a second. But really what we found is a lot of you folks just, I have a value I'm comfortable with. I have a value that my city council has authorized. I want mine. So that's become more pervasive, okay? So if you have been involved before, just for this year, moving into 2022, existing programs, no real meaningful changes there other than what I referred to earlier. Now, big changes are coming. This is a big year, and this is the year for you folks to engage. Even if you don't want to be an active participant, be part of the conversation, because this is a rather large year we got coming up. Okay. Again, when we work through the design and the recommended programs and values and minimum requirements and those things, our primary sources are the Iowa State Technical Resource Manual, Energy Star, and then the investor-owned programs. Okay, what happens with the feds, with the DOE, it also comes into play here, although that's often contemplated by the state technical resource manual. So we're part of these meetings and collaboratives and sessions throughout the year. So we kind of know come about September, October, what's coming up here. So this 2020, this year is going to be a big year because number one, for Mid-American Alliance and then also Black Hills, this is the last year of their current plan. And so they've already given strong indications that going into next year or what is decided throughout this year, there's going to be meaningful change. And so we can expect some substantial stuff coming up. And we don't want to wait until December 20th and get into a scramble here. This is something we want to work out throughout the end of the summer and into the fall. And then we're also hearing that the TRM, as a result of that, is going to have some meaningful change going into next year as well. I mentioned earlier, Energy Star is always hard to track. They just can't ever stay the course on anything, but they are dropping their support for fossil fueled appliances. They are unable to tell us, which heat pumps are Energy Star certified and which are not without doing a lookup. Anyway, we do our best that we can with them, but we're seeing some meaningful change there as well. And then, of course, the big thing here is with air conditioners and heat pumps, the federal minimum standards going up on January 1st, which basically means the inventory is going to be exhausted throughout this year, just so everybody knows. Now they might have a little lag, but we're going to start seeing the impacts of this like right now. And what's going to happen there is you're going to see a conventional sear point. So what currently is a 13.2 air conditioner, a 14 air source heat pump is going to go to 14 and 15. However, they're going to change the methodology. So apparently they're going to call it SEER 2, HSPF 2, EER 2, and that's actually going to bring it down a few points. So we'll know as we get into this in the fall time what we're going to look at in terms of what's going to happen with the federal minimum standards. Okay, so I did want to, Jeff already touched on this. I don't have control, but I want to tell you guys something. All the members all have different approaches here. AIMS, for example, they don't support any paper anymore. So it's all online, but that's the only one. We have other members that provide through their own websites 2 paths to what would be your customer. It basically says to download a paper form, click here, or to apply online, click here. And if you would receive a paper form, then you would essentially go to the online application form and apply on their behalf. That's actually probably the most popular alternative. And then there are, in some cases, folks that just support mail-in. That's it. They don't do apply online. We struggled for a long time on how to present rebate values through the portal because once again, all you folks wanted your own values. So we're like, how could we do that? How do we tell that there's no consistent value? And so we built this homepage on the portal, which is really only about 60 days old, but we do have quite a few that have already already used it. And on this homepage, we can provide to them the header text, graphics, links, all that stuff, but basically a table of the various programs and the values that you offer, okay? And then up top on the menu, we change that label from program listing to apply online. So that's new, and that's something that you'll get with this as well, okay? Again, apply online, so there you go. Oh, here's an example I mentioned with AIMS. See, they don't even use that program listing. So if you were to go to the AIMS website where it says like that heat pump water heater application and you click on it, they send you directly into the first page of the application form for the heat pump water application. So that is a path you could take as well. That would be very similar to what I talked about a moment ago. You know, click here to download my paper form or click here to apply online. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so some updates to the public portal. Jeff mentioned this earlier. We kind of track, we know a lot about consumer behavior online, and then we track activity with we have a tracker. We can see what people are doing when they're on there. And a few things on this. First of all, we're cognizant, right, that we want this to be a superior customer experience, superior, and that's the concern here. If it's not superior, I don't want to offer this alternative. So this is a constant work in process for us. One is this is a wizard style form. That's what step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 means. What we do is we carve the form. It's not like an old form stack, type of thing. We carve this up into smaller steps. And that we know just from general internet behavior that that's a much better experience for a visitor that is unfamiliar. If they were familiar with it, they just like to scroll down and keep typing. But if they're unfamiliar with it, they like to go step by step. And in our case, step 1 is their address where the check would go. Step 2 is the installation address. And then step 3 is where they tell us what it is that they purchased and installed, the various things that go with that, the installation date, the efficiency rating, so on and so forth. Step 4 is, if it exists, which usually it does, are survey questions, analytics, things like, did the rebate make a difference for you? Because if you find that it doesn't make a difference, you may not want to continue to offer that incentive, so on and so forth. Now, step 5 is key. That's where the evidence document is, okay? So that's where they got to upload, they got to attach their proof of purchase document. And one of the things that we found through our tracker is that the fallout rate, well, of all the ones that did not complete the form, over 80% of the time it was at step 5 because they forgot to have their evidence document, or they didn't have it. And so we created that save for later button there. You can see that. What that allows them to do is they can hit that save for later. We've wrapped up everything that they've entered so far in cookies, and then we send to their email address the link to the form as they've already completed it. So then they can go get their evidence document, open it, not have to continue typing, attach it, and finish it. Okay. So that's also new for this year. One of the things that we're working on here for the first quarter is to add two new steps early on. Now, more steps are not good, but this will make sense. The first step would be very descriptive, kind of like most of you folks probably have applied for a tire rebate or a contact lens rebate. And the first page, they tell you, okay, this is what you need to complete this. This is how long it's going to take. This is how many steps that it is. So we're going to do that. And then we also have plans to put the terms and conditions on a step of its own as well. Okay. Okay, this is a new feature. This is something we would want to talk with each of you who are interested on a one-off basis. This is contractor entry. This is new. So you can imagine right now, you folks probably want to do the least amount of typing as you can get away with, but you still want to offer the customer a paper form if that's what they want. So, right, you have customers that says, I don't want to deal with paper. I only want to do online. You have customers that say, I do not want to do online. I only want to do paper. And then we've now have this contractor entry experience. So each of you probably have 2, 3, 4 heating and cooling contractors that are fairly active in your market. And we have an experience where they can now enter on behalf of your customer and have that record created. There's different nuances to this. And so if you had an interest in this, we would want to talk to you on a peer-to-peer level. Let me give you an example. What if a contractor operates in more than one MunEEBuck member? We have to think about that, okay? You're looking at Ames. Ames is very big on contractor entry, but the contractors in Ames also work in Ogden, which is in fact also a MunEEBuck participant. It comes up. Another thing is whether or not you offer a contractor incentive. Many don't, some do, okay? Ames does, but Mid-American and Alliant don't, okay? All of the RECs do, so that's always a nuance. And what I mean by that with contractor entry is we can create two different records on a single event. So the customer rebate record and also the contractor spiff record. And then the third nuance to that is, do you want the customer to simply receive a notification that a rebate's been entered on their behalf, or do you want them to open up something, acknowledge it, and return it back to you? We have both options. The acknowledgement is an additional step. Customers sometimes forget that it's there and it stalls out. We did have a situation where one of the very first customers that we applied the acknowledgement to was blind. So these are all nuances, but my point I'm telling you is contractor entry is now a thing. We offer it, and there's different ways to address it based upon your policies and conditions and interests. Okay, multi-level program administration. So that I'm clear on this, we're not quite applying this anywhere within the MunEEBucks, the Iowa MunEEBucks program, but we've configured for this in our system because we do it elsewhere. Let's say you have a city-sponsored program, and let's say it's an efficiency program, or let's say it's a propane conversion program, and you offer, I don't know, $300 a ton for an air source heat pump rebate if it was converted over from a propane furnace. Okay. In that scenario, your wholesaler, your joint action agency or wholesaler, they may also find that attractive because not only are you adding a line into that home, but they're picking up a customer that they otherwise would not have had. Okay. And so what we've created now is the ability to do up to 3 tiers where, for example, I think only 2 would apply here, okay? Where, for example, your wholesaler may offer, also offer $150 a ton, and they pay down to you, and then you layer your city sponsored piece onto that and you pay out to the customer. But you're able essentially to manage that. We're able to manage it for you, I should say, in a singular system. Okay, so it's multi-level program administration up to 3 different levels. That's fixed prescribed amounts. That's like a thermostat is $100. That'd be a fixed amount. There's formula driven amounts, like it's $150 a ton for a heat pump. And then there's also maximum amounts. So you could say $150 a ton for a heat pump, a maximum of $600. And you can do that at all 3 tiers, okay? All right, so we did make some updates to this report. So we talked about, Jeff talked, I guess I've spent a lot of time talking about the program design here and the intake portals and methods. Again, Jeff mentioned that, but the third key element to MunEEBucks is we do processing as well. Okay. Now when we finish our processing, the way we refer to that is verified, not approved, but verified. There are things that we just don't know. We don't know if they're behind in their payments to you. We don't know if you're out of budget. There's a few things that are really just beyond us. We have run into some funky situations where I can think of Eldridge, where a customer applied for a rebate. We did, in fact, determine that the installation address was in the city limits of Eldridge, but they were actually not served by Eldridge Electric. They were served by somebody else. So how we characterize this is sort of the last look. We'll do the administration and processing through verified, which primarily means equipment details and are they in your market or not. And when I say are they in the market or not, that might seem goofy, but we did get an application for Ogden, Utah one time that was applying for Ogden, Iowa. So it happens. But you still would have the last look. This is the report that you would receive. for your last look, and then this is what you would provide to your finance. We made this cleaner, easier, a little bit more comprehensive. You can see it, it includes the account ID, the name, address, program promotion, item, the specific item, and then if you want your geocode stored in there, we can do that. So your ledger code for that item, and then the amount. Okay, so there's a few less fields, a few more fields, but they're more applicable. And then we incorporated the geocode because we did have a few different participants say, hey, I want to store my geocodes here so that when I send this to accounting, they can not only pay out, but they can record it in the right account. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about this for a moment. Generally, let's stop here, and I will ask, because we're sort of moving out of rebates for a second. There's a couple chats in here. I don't know whose those are from. Are there any questions at this point?
And I don't see any in the chat. I think that was just me saying, hey, ask questions if you have any.
Okay. One of the things that we built out last year, it's a whole new solution, and it's not for a conventional rebate program, although it eventually turns into one, but it's for home audit and weatherization. So it's not a request for money per se. It is a program management and collaboration tool. And so if you look at that step by step at the top, you'll see it says new project, waiting for auditor, waiting for contractor, waiting for approval, completed. Here's what I mean. You get a request from a customer for a home audit. You would create this record and you would put in the account information. That's new. And then you would assign it. You would approve it forward and assign it to an auditor. That auditor could work for you, or that it could be an external auditor. But you assign it not only to a person with an auditor role, but an actual person. And so then they have an account in this system. They get notified. They log in. They see they've got a record assigned to them. And then they can also, we can customize this, but they can also, because it's pretty typical, assign it to a weatherization contractor for the deeper stuff, which is usually going to be insulation and air sealing. Sometimes there's some other things. And then they would return it back to you and you would say, I'm good with this. And then you would hit completed. When you hit completed, it generates that rebate record and it goes right into your account, right into us, so that it can feed all the way through to all of the financial and the energy impact reporting. So I got a lot of slides here, but I'm going to ask Jeff to kind of go through them pretty quickly, but I'm going to give you kind of a peek of what they are, okay? This is the top. This is just general customer information, who they are, where they're located. We have a feed into Zillow. So if they've ever paid, if the property has ever been assessed, we'll have things like square footage and how many rooms and stuff like that. What year it was built, that's a key one. Oftentimes these home audits you're not eligible for one unless the home is at least 20 years old, because often the originating equipment hasn't yet died, okay? This is the home audit report. So in this section, first of all, you're entering the 12 previous months of usage. We use some standard formulas to determine base, cooling, and heating. And then that populates onto this report, as well as all of the various improvements that were made by the auditor and the improvements that are planned for the weatherization contractor. You can download this, you can email it to the customer. This is a really big, so this is all of the audit data, so it can get pretty busy, but let me just explain to you, when the auditor's going through, they are entering all of the things like the building details, okay? Again, how big is it? How many occupants are there? What's the conditioned square, the conditioned square feet? They'll enter the space heating and cooling information, which would be whether there's central cooling or not. Just stay with that for a little bit, would you, Jeff? on space heating, what's the source? Is it electric resistance? Is it fuel? Is it gas or propane? Is it a heat pump? And then how big is the heating and cooling equipment? And then all the details, what the ratings are, the sizes, things like that. Attic insulation is big, so we have a couple there, just in case there's two different types of attic insulation there, but the auditor is recording the type, the attic square footage, the thickness, and the quality, and then we can run some R-value formulas off that. There's other building shell information. Same thing with water heating, we're capturing that, appliances, lighting, and other load factors. Here is, so we have formulas in here, which we draw from the technical resource manual that are contingent based. So let's say it's attic insulation, somebody wants to do an attic insulation job, and the auditor tells the system that it's electric resistance heat, okay, and central cooling. Well, the impact of that is going to be more significant than if the space heating was a heat pump, right? Because electric resistance heat is less fuel efficient than a heat pump. So we run all these kWh, kW, and therm energy savings opportunities using formulas from the TRM and based upon the conditions as presented in the audit. Two improvement sections. So oftentimes the auditor does things, they do more than just collect audit information. They might leave an efficiency kit behind. They might replace recessed lamps. They may install low flow shower heads and aerators or wrap the water heater. So these would be actually energy improvements that the auditor made. And you can see the kWh, kW, and then the third one is therms. We bring that in from those energy savings opportunities above. And then usually with you folks, we'll leave cost and total cost blank, because then you can type over, but sometimes we have programs that say, this is all I'm going to pay. It doesn't matter what the contractor is asking for. This is my fee for that. And then the second section is for what deeper improvements, which often again are insulation, air sealing. We do see some things like, cleaning HVAC equipment is another one that we see from time to time. And then last but not least on this, all of those improvements made by either the auditor and or the weatherization contractor, if marked as complete, we tally down into this summary section. So we have the total kWh, kW therms and the total amount. And then that's what turns into that rebate application request record. So it's address level, formula driven impact, not just deemed, okay? And then we have a mobile app, which I think this will be our last slide, Jeff, but we have a mobile app now and we have different instances, two different instances where this is being applied. One is in fact that home audit weatherization, where that field auditor and that weatherization contractor, prefer to use their phone rather than a computer. And then there's another one, which we don't have any programs in Iowa on this yet, but they're installer driven things. So we have a situation where an installer might go out and maybe locate a propane furnace and say, hey, I'm going to start this job. I'm going to take a picture on the phone that's going to be location tagged. And then when I do the install and I send it back, so it goes back into MunEEBucks and eventually to me, we've got evidence that in fact, the qualification conditions for that particular event have been satisfied. Again, the mobile app is usually in the field, a technician, an auditor, a dealer, somebody of that nature. It's essentially a tool. It has all of the same things that I've shown you in the web app. It's just an alternate way to get that in there for usually non-customer program participants like installers and auditors. that was actually if you just go up a little bit, Jeff, this one I've got screenshots. It's actually an HVAC maintenance program. So if you have a maintenance program and you've wondered how you can get that information from the technician, that's that configuration there. Okay, moving forward, things that have come up in the last 60 days that we're pretty much committed on. I mentioned some of these earlier. One is on the public portal to create that intro page and that terms and condition page. 2, a customer sign up feature on the portal. So customers can go in and sign up for home audits. They can sign up for a solar study. They can sign up for a new service, those kinds of things. Solar DER contract administration. So I've learned through some of our other clients that this kind of the wild, wild west out there, but there's usually some sort of a common form and a need for a singular form, centralized system to store all these contracts. And then there's a workflow around it. Like there might be an individual that's dispatched before the job is started. And there might also be one after the job is complete. And so there's a workflow assigned there. So that I think we're about 90% committed to that. We'd like to have some more of our users engage on that to help us design that appropriately. And then 2 things that we're tracking with Mid-American that for you to know about. One is if any of you are familiar with how it works with the investor-owned utilities, they have what are known as interveners. They're either consumer advocates or they're environmentalists, and they always are pushing them to do stuff because they're regulated utilities. And the 2 things that they've sort of agreed or are moving on, one is something special with heat pumps. Now, Mid-American by law is not allowed to promote fuel switching, but they do have markets where they don't sell gas, okay? I mean, there's Pleasantville right around here is one of them. And so they, beginning in 2023, it sounds like they're gonna begin having something special to promote cold climate heat pumps in those territories where they do not offer gas. And then this last one is called midstream. So this is really something that will help you guys quite a bit if they move on it. So what midstream is instead of paying, it's ultimately a customer benefit, but it's actually instantly redeemed and paid all the way back up to the regional wholesaler. And there's 2 primary benefits to this, okay? One is it makes the administration so much easier because instead of paying everyone individually or even a contractor, you're actually paying just a handful of regional wholesalers and you're only paying them, say, quarterly or something like that. Now, it must still include the customer. So the dealer still has to, even if the wholesaler provides their shipment data, the installer or the customer still has to register it and say, hey, this is where it went and it's installed, so that you as a utility know that it went into your territory, it was your customer, and it in fact has been installed. So there's different elements to this, but one is administrative cost and fulfillment cost. The other driver behind this is that this is an efficiency driven thing, not as much a electrification thing. And, we're sort of, running out of, there's less and less energy efficiency that can be captured with certain devices. And what that means to the investor-owned utilities is that there's a lot of downward pressure on their rebate values. And so when that value is shifted up, farther up the supply chain, it can still have meaningful impact. A smaller value can still have significant influence on the market because the margins are really slim with wholesalers. Like sometimes with new homes, they might only get $100 on an air conditioner. So if they get $100 or $150 from the utility, they're doubling their income. So this is not, midstream is not something that you, the municipal utilities, or even you, the municipal utilities plus the RECs, you couldn't force this to happen, I don't think, because you don't have the weight that Mid-American and Alliant do. But if they move on it, you can ride herd on this, and I think it'll really benefit you. And then the last thing I would just say is that we are always looking for ideas. Jeff is real good about this, but we are always looking for additional value that you can provide. So if you want to do something and you don't know how to do it, or if you're already doing something and it's a real pain in the butt, we would really like to engage in that conversation to see if we can do something, how much it would cost, all those kinds of discussions. Okay. That's
Good
it for
deal.
me, Jeff. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions that anyone may have. And as you think about questions, I'll ask a question. You know, if a customer comes to you and they say, hey, I want to do this efficiency project, but I looked on your website and you don't have a rebate for what I want to do, we'll do custom rebates. So my process on that is I will look at the Iowa TRM. If there's not a calculation for the project they want to do, I'll look on other states' TRMs. Over the years of being an energy efficiency, I created a database of these different state TRMs, and if it's not there, you know, that's when I'll apply the engineering degree and we'll come up with a calculation. You know, I used to do custom rebate calculations for Mid-American and Alliant with that clear result. And we got some crazy projects, you know, projects like, hey, we bought this electronically controlled and programmable system that raises and lowers our blind given where the sun is at with relation to our building. And we know it saves energy because we open our blinds in the winter to get more heat in, and in the summer we lower them to keep heat out. You know, we know it saves energy, but we want a rebate. What would the rebate be? Well, I've run a calculation for that. We did a calculation for Rock Island Arsenal that they made a change to their electroplating process for artillery. I can't say much about that project, but basically if your customer can dream it up, we can calculate a custom rebate for it. And that's the benefit of being in MunEEBucks. We will calculate those custom rebates for you for free. Any other questions? I don't see anything in the chat. It is 12:59. John, could you think of any other questions someone may have?
No, I would just say next steps, you know, I mean, if you reach back out to us as a result of this webinar, you know, don't think that, you know, I mean, all it is an inquiry. Okay. So I would encourage you to say, hey, you know, this is something that we at least should, or something that we may want to at least discuss here. Okay. And if you do that, we have found the easiest way for us to facilitate that conversation between us, and then for you then to have the conversation internally, is to actually build you a portal. Okay, we can present on PowerPoints all we want, but if we actually do a first generation and just say, hey, this is not the finished good, but it's something that will at least, we believe, at least will help you to decide whether or not you want to continue that conversation or conclude that conversation one way or the other. So if you have any interest at all, I would just ask you to say, send Jeff an email and say, hey, you know, let's take a deeper look at this. And then we'll put some time into it. We'll build a little something for you and we'll get it over to you. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, you're very welcome to leave a comment. We monitor that and we'll answer questions. Also, if you look in the YouTube description, my contact info will be there. So you can always reach out to me The next steps for implementing MunEEBucks, as we've discussed, is very simple. So you're very welcome to reach out, and thanks for attending and watching. Good deal. Have a good one, everyone.